That's right. That's right. Welcome to the bottom of the rabbit hole. Matrix University is live. Welcome. All the yellow pillars fall into the lecture room. We've got some things to discuss tonight. Our resident advisor, Vesuvius, is here with us. Vesuvius, go ahead and say hello to the class.
Greetings, Red Pills. We've got some good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I just went ahead and tweeted out that we're live. I'm trying to get better at remembering that each and every session. But that said, make sure you're following both of us on Twitter and Instagram to make sure you're getting all the updates, because a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about tonight, we've been sharing on social media through those other platforms. I've been trying to get caught up on the Matrix comic series here on the channel. So I've been, head in the screen trying to grind out this content for you guys. Really trying to get those banged out before the premiere of the Matrix Resurrections. But we've got some interesting, and it's like this diverse group of Matrix Resurrections updates and topics to discuss tonight. It's actually a wide variety of stuff to cover since our last live session. Hello to everyone in the room. I see we've got some yellow pillars. Randy Pena, hello. I believe you should have that wrench now, brother. I know we talked about that. I wanted to make sure that you were a moderator here.
So
Shout out
Randy and I just did a little mock live on TikTok.
Oh, you guys did pull that off.
Well, I'm new to TikTok, so I don't have certain permissions to actually do live video yet, but it's a work in progress.
Well, yeah, that's what he did message me, and I wasn't sure if you're going to use Discord or StreamYard or how you were going to go about that. I don't have TikTok installed, so there's that. But what is going on, family? Yeah, we are out here getting ready to drop some yellow pills. So you ready? Let's just go ahead and jump on into this. I think we got enough people in here to get started, right? So the first thing, and we might have mentioned this in the last live stream. I don't think so. I know for sure we mentioned the running time, but since then, we have found out that the Matrix Resurrections is indeed rated R, as you can see here. Right, the screen's being shared right now, right? Yeah. So, that's IMDb. And this should come as no surprise to anyone. All three of the previous trilogy installments were also rated R. It looks like I can click it. Right. It says it's rated R for violence and some language. So yeah, am I reading this correctly? Right. So it says sex and nudity, violence and gore, intense fighting, profanity, alcohol, drugs, and smoking, frightening and intense scenes.
Yeah, that's about right.
I guess they consider the power plant makeup to be gore. I'm just, I don't.
Well,
I wouldn't classify the Matrix as a gory film. It's not like horror, but whatever.
No, but Animatrix had some stuff. Second Renaissance that was a little bit disturbing, and I was in my 20s when I watched that. They'll be doing some, I don't know, I guess surgical stuff to Neo and Trinity. They will be pretty much naked, so our rating for that seems to fit. The drug use thing, the red pill, blue pill. Come on.
So I want to circle back real quick because you mentioned the Animatrix, and I hear this a lot. Like, I'm guessing most of this is in reference to the second Renaissance scenes, and I was not that disturbed by it, which is funny. But I hear that a lot. I hear people say, "Oh, I had nightmares." I mean, if you were like 12, 13 when you watched it, yeah, you probably were not supposed to be watching that anyway. But yeah, I still feel like that animation was more graphic than anything we saw in the actual live action films, though. That's why I was curious. And I just watched whatever that I think it's like Oats Studios on Netflix. Like I saw Sigourney Weaver and was like, all right, I'll see what this is. And then I clicked it and I was like, what is this? Like that first episode was okay, but then after that, it was just like, 12 minutes of gore. Like this is no real story. We're just gonna show you something real creepy looking or disturbing or bloody for the sake of showing you it and move on to the next one. So that's why when I see gore now, I'm like, really? The Matrix gory? I don't know. That seems like a reach to me, but I do think that, because people, another question I get a lot is like, oh, do you think the Matrix is gonna hurt as far as release numbers because it's coming out the same day as Spider-Man? And I'm like, well, Spider-Man is PG-13, and to me, the R rating, while again it should be expected by us, it's a good sign to me, because if it was PG-13, that would be a big mistake, to quote the Governator. What is it? Skynet? No, Skynet. Terminator Genesis, right? The one before, the last one fell down that rabbit hole of, oh, let's try to make it PG-13 to widen the audience and target teenagers, and it just, it failed for other reasons than that, but that's a bad sign. That's that trying to cater and be something that you're not, just to try to hit certain target numbers, and we do not want the Matrix franchise to fall into that trap. So it's good to see that they avoided that. And again, it's a different demographic than the Spider-Man crowd. So I personally don't think it's going to have that big of an effect. But you can't, with a film this size, you can't really plan around the fact that another big movie's coming out. You just got to pick your date and stick to it, especially with the whole palindrome of the 12, 22, 21.
Yeah, that's a cool touch, and at least they're saving something cool for when you're grown up. Everything's getting like watered down. It's like, oh, everything's for kids. It's like, there's a reason you want to grow up and be a grown up, so you can watch movies like this. Terminator 2 was absolutely kick ass, and even Part 1. But yeah, the Governator is right. Like, it's a big mistake. Like, and I've seen him on like Nickelodeon, like back when I was a kid, because like he got an award for like Predator or something. And it's a rated R movie, and I'm like, it's kind of weird that he's getting it, and he didn't show up. Like, he did like a video acceptance, but he's like,
Right.
Kids need the action too, but this is really,
That's the funny
you can
thing to
appreciate
me.
it more when you get older.
You're saying he got the award on Nickelodeon, and that's the thing. At the time I was a kid, I saw all those movies. Like, I was nowhere near 18. But uh, but yeah, I don't know. Is there anything you wanted to add to the R rating thing? I'm glad that it had the expansion so that we could see the details of why it was rated R. But like I said, none of that should come as a surprise.
No, I just think it's in line with the other. At least the tone is going to be in line with the original trilogy. I don't. Did they do any F words besides the Merovingian?
Well, that's in French anyway, right?
Yeah, but technically, it's still an F word. He
Yeah.
said like whore and slut and everything else.
Or
I thought I was going to keep this clean. He said some stuff. Beep that out.
Let me think. I don't think so. I don't think so. There's a lot of dialogue between the first three films, but they might have dodged the F-bombs there. But either way, there's enough between the intense fighting and the blood, and like I said, I guess they consider the real world scenes of the pods and power plants to be graphic. So, rightly so, and there are people co-signing your second Renaissance trauma in the chat here. So,
Well, not that I was traumatized, but I was surprised that it was as graphic. And credit to the director and the voice actors, because it was surprising. I was in my 20s and I was like, oh God, what the hell?
All right, so this next topic here, this is actually something that you're going to have to lead, because I believe you mentioned that you have already purchased one of the Matrix Resurrection themed Funko Pops?
Yes, I did. It was the glow in the dark Code Neo Funko Pop, and that one. So the line, I believe, is 6 figures right now. So there's a Morpheus Red and Morpheus Blue. There's a Neo and a Trinity. There's a coded Neo, and there's the Analyst. And as actually Randy talked about earlier when we were on TikTok, I think that this is the first time that they're naming Neil Patrick Harris's character as the Analyst.
Okay, right. We know this from the several spoiler and potential leak live streams on the channel, and Geekdom and Viewer Non jumping in and validating stuff. But yeah, I guess to the public, or the first time that they're officially giving up his name as or character name as the Analyst. So that's nice confirmation there. Now I did notice here in this picture, the Analyst is only available at Walmart, whereas the red suited Morpheus is only available at Target. So you've got the red and blue corporation logos juxtaposition there, which is
I didn't even
cute.
think about that. That's awesome. No, that's cool branding. So when I first saw the picture, I was like, "Oh, this is BS," but it looks pretty cool. And the reason I knew it was BS when I saw it is because it said it was exclusive to Walmart and exclusive to Target. So yeah, it's those respective um, figures that are exclusive to those specific stores. And the code Neo is exclusive to Books a Million, which is something I'm not really all that familiar with, but I logged on and that's the one I purchased. It was, I believe, $13.99 with $4 shipping, so it came out to just over $20, and no ship date or no estimated time of release or arrival. But I think did I see the 16th? I'm going off of memory here.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna. I mean, you basically answered my question because it says here that it's pre-order, but I don't see any date in terms of when it's actually supposed to be released.
I'll do a quick Google search, but yeah, it's cool that we have something tangible now. So I've been pushing my Teespring stuff and my digital stuff, but hey, now we got some official stuff. Now we can actually support this movie, and the pre-orders on this merch is going to be important. So if you've got the dollars, then go and buy this stuff because this is what's going to get us another movie or a
Now,
series or something.
now I might be in my Matrix University colored glasses, but is it just me or is that yellow code behind them in this picture? Is that
Well,
just
they're
the
definitely following the channel.
they're definitely following what?
Yes, it is. They're definitely following the channel. Hey, they've got to tune in to their audience and their demographic, and there's nothing more representative of that than you and I think.
Well, I'm glad you said that because if they are listening, if especially Warner is listening, this is the perfect transition into the next topic because you talked about the branding, with the Walmart blue and the Target red, and then somewhere in between the Funko and now a certain social media platform rebranded itself. I'm not going to reference them by name, but in response, or in what people think is response to that, uh the official Instagram account for the Matrix movie posted this, and it says, now based on real events, the choice is yours. Now I made a meme about this, and all right, the hashtag that they put in their post was pound meta. So if you're listening, Warner Media, I'm going to say this out loud, and I don't want to speak it into existence, so I'm a little nervous. I'm gonna knock on wood here. Hopefully that cancels this out. But yeah, if there's a cross promotion of any kind coming, I am going to be big sad, like so upset. Please do not. For the love of everything pure in this world, I need that to not be a thing. Um, all the articles I read about it seem to assume that the pound meta was a very sophisticated troll of the announcement of the rebranding. But yeah, let's stick with that. Please just be making jokes because we love jokes over here.
And what a great use of social media. It's something that you can pick up and just throw it out there, and it got lots of attention. I mean, and they were quick on it too. I think within 24 hours, and it just being the Matrix makes it so much better. And perfect use of social media.
Yeah, no, they were quick with it. So that has me a little nervous. But again, I'm hoping that it's just an intern who is on their toes over at the Matrix movie Instagram page. Yeah, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to give that specific social media platform too much shine. So I want to go ahead and move on to the next thing, because this has actually been generating a lot of conversation. And that is the plan for the Warner Brothers plans, the Matrix Resurrections NFT project. So the headline here says that the studio and partner NFTs will sell 100,000 unique Matrix-inspired avatars, and next month the buyers will be given the option to transform them by taking a red pill. And this actually came out yesterday. But yeah, people have been talking about this. What are your initial thoughts before I continue?
Okay, so this is new to me, this NFT. I know it's been around for a couple of years, and I think the famous um, the video of the kid biting the brother's finger went NFT, where the original video was going to be sold to somebody. But so this is new to me, and it looks like it's going to be like an alternate reality, I guess, game. So I'm kind of on board with that. I think I'm going to buy into this. I'll buy, hopefully one if I can get it. Also, I think they're going to pull from the Matrix Online because you got all this name recognition from the nerds that played the game. So I mean, can you imagine if there's a Manic Velocity or a T-Bone or an Aquatium out there, and they took the character's likeness? Like the picture in this article doesn't look too far off from like a video game.
Well, I did notice the animation quality about it. It is digital art. Real quick here, Eternity is here. Thank you for the super chat. He says, "Hello, Yellow Pills," and I'd like to once again thank you for the super chat. It's always appreciated. We will make the best of your Matrix University tithings. Now, David here asks, "Could you guys please explain to me what is NFT?" I'm going to read through the rest of this. It's a blockchain thing. I feel like I understand it conceptually, but someone always is in the chat or the conversation or the thread who can explain it better than me. Like, I have a basic understanding of how blockchain technology works, but I don't know that I know it well enough to explain it to other people. But I'm going to go ahead and continue the rest of this article. And NFT is an acronym for non-fungible token, which I'm going to read this and it's going to say that again. So the Matrix universe is expanding to the blockchain, the latest example in a series of efforts by traditional Hollywood power players to break into the non-fungible token NFT space. Later this month, Warner Brothers will release non-fungible tokens inspired by the Matrix franchise and the upcoming film The Matrix Resurrections. Unlike other NFT projects based on Hollywood intellectual property, the Matrix project is instead taking its inspiration from some of the red-hot NFT avatar art projects like CryptoPunks and Bored Ape Yacht Club, where the buyers are buying a unique avatar from those worlds. The Matrix NFTs will be released in partnership with the social NFT platform NFTs, which will create 100,000 avatars and will sell them for $50 each starting November 30th. The avatars will represent characters living in the Matrix. On December 16th, all buyers will be able to choose to take a blue pill, which will keep the avatar in the Matrix, or a red pill, which will transform it into a resistance fighter. And in coming months, there will be other challenges and options, letting users upgrade their avatars or earn new NFTs. I think that's where you got that December 16th date from. Because we were talking about that
I
recently.
think that's okay, yeah, that's probably the 16th, but they'll be available for purchase on the
The
30th,
30th.
I believe,
Yeah.
of November.
Correct.
Now, okay, so I got a question, and I don't we don't necessarily have to answer it right now, but they mentioned that these are going to be characters that are in the Matrix universe. So, will Neo be available for purchase?
So, okay, hold on. Let me go back to that line here. Where see, okay, it says the avatars will represent characters living in the Matrix. So I don't know that means movie characters. I think that means that they're blue pills. You know, just like when we log into the Matrix Online for the first time, you're walking around the street like a homeless bum, right? So you're living in the Matrix at that point. You know, then you take the red pill and pick out your cool clothes, and I think that's what they mean by that. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I can go for that. I mean, that's all cool. I mean, if you can kind of be the character as if it's any other MMO.
well,
That's just kind of what I'm equating it to right now.
that's what I don't understand about this. In terms of the wording here, is it a unique character, or are there going to be duplicates, or like the Matrix Online, do we get to dress and pick out how our character looks? Because if that's the case, they might actually get my $50. Um, but I don't know if it's going to be a dress your own NFT situation. I don't know that that's how it works. You know, like I said, my understanding of blockchain, I don't see why they couldn't set it up that way. Like you create your character, and then it has to get authenticated through the chain, and maybe that's the delay from the 30th to the 16th. That might be the authentication period, right? But I'm not sure. I mean, it's still a little vague here, but let's see what maybe some of these questions are going to answer in the rest of this article. Let's continue. The choice for users mirrors that of the characters in the franchise who take the red pill to escape the Matrix. We really think that theme of digital identity and choice and owning that identity resonates with the themes in the Matrix franchise, says Jeff Marsilio, CEO and co-founder of NFTs. It was an opportunity to take what was already a grassroots movement with the NFT avatar and take it further mainstream. Warner has been experimenting with NFTs since early this year and previously partnered with NFTs on a set of Space Jam digital collectibles. Pam LaFord, president of Warner Media Global Brands and Experiences, says that NFTs have potential to be a long-running part of our global portfolio of products and experiences for fans. If you think about all the ways fans of content can interact with their favorite characters and stories in 2021, retail stores, theme parks, social media, collectibles, online shops, digital art, and collectibles are certainly on that list now, she says. It's another touch point for fans to engage in another way we can entertain and provide great content. NFTs have become a popular experiment for IP owners, with Fox Corp, Lionsgate, and Viacom CBS along the company signing on to NFT projects. However, the avatar-centric theme of the Matrix project is a differentiator, as the characters consumers will buy aren't from the movies at all, but rather live in that universe. So there's the answer. You're not going to be able to buy Neo. Some of the NFT avatar projects like CryptoPunks are seeing examples sold on the open market for the equivalent of millions of dollars, with owners using their avatars across social media platforms and elsewhere. Larva Labs, the creator of CryptoPunks and other projects like MeBits, have signed with UTA for film, TV, and gaming representation, while some high-profile NFT owners, like the pseudonym 0xBL or 0xB1, have signed with agencies to represent some of their acquisitions. Given the enthusiasm for the franchise and the very nature of what the Matrix story and settings are about, an NFT program seemed perfect, LaFord adds. Marsilio says that entertainment companies have slightly different needs when it comes to exploring the space than, say, digital artists, particularly around royalty payments, brand safety, and clear ownership of the IP, as well around how NFTs fit into the overall digital strategy. A million fans is worth more than $1 million, and that engagement drives activity, drives revenue, and drives your business goals, he says. So, I mean, this just to me looks like another way that companies, and it's not just companies, people, individuals are being forced to find ways to reinvent themselves post pandemic. And I think that this is, as the last paragraph mentions, a new way to generate revenue. But again, if part of that avatar experience is the ability to design or have creative input on how your avatar looks, I don't think $50 is terrible.
I think $50 to get in on the Matrix franchise once again isn't bad to start. The Matrix Online. I'll just compare it to that. That was a monthly subscription of $15. So 3 months you're at $45. Yeah, I played for like 5 years and took very few months off here and there. So I mean, I got a couple of hundred wrapped up in that, but all good experiences. And hopefully, this has some kind of like role play game options. And it'll probably be fun. I mean, I don't know. It'll be a journey, but $50 down, that's not bad.
Right. And Stephanie here says it's literally ownership of a digital picture instead of just copy pasting. So, like I said, my question then is, if I spend 50 on this avatar and someone copy and uploads it, can I then, tell Twitter or Instagram or whoever that that's a copyright infringement and they're violating and they need to take it down? Because we all know that I have that issue going on with people just using color fill tools on logos and whatnot.
Uh
But yeah, for $50, if that's the case, I'm much more interested now after this conversation than I was before, because they mentioned in the article the Space Jam collectibles, and from what I've heard, it's basically just a digital, basketball card, but Space Jam. Which, if you're into that kind of thing, I mean, it's LeBron, it's sports. So if you're into collecting those kind of cards, then it's probably not so terrible for you as a fan. I know I wouldn't be interested in that. Then the other extreme end of the spectrum is the speculation or assumption that this means that this is going to parlay into a video game, which isn't out of the realm of possibility. I'd love to see it actually be part of a new Matrix video game, just for the sake of knowing that we'd have a new Matrix video game. Obviously, this article didn't say anything about that, so that's pure speculation, and we can't expect that from this news. However, I like I said before, my main thing is it just not. I need it to not unlock something in the metaverse. That's all
huh.
I need. That's all I need, Warner. Like, just please give me that. Please let me have that. I need that. Um, yeah. So, do you have any like leftover thoughts on this whole NFT news? Like I said, it just came out yesterday, so it's still fresh. I mean, you're kind of getting my first yellow pilled reaction. I didn't really do too much research on it up until reading the article with you guys right now, just so you could kind of get my raw reaction and first thoughts.
Well, I'm gonna do a little bit of like homework and just see what other communities are doing with their NFT tokens, because we might be able to do our own little role play game, like a pen and paper thing, just online, and just kind of do it ourselves. I don't have experience with that stuff. I'm actually becoming a nerd later in life. I was actually quite athletic when I was younger, but if it's in the Matrix universe, yeah, I'm in. I'm interested.
So Stephanie here answering my question. She says the original copyright owner retains the right to mint NFTs. So, I'd equate that to like a beat lease kind of thing, where like a producer would make a beat or instrumental for an artist, but in the contract or in the contractual language, the producer states that they still own the rights, the copyright, but that you have exclusive right usage, meaning that he's not going to sell it to anybody else. and you can use it and make as much money as you want, but you don't have ownership of it. So in a courtroom situation, the original creator, the producer in that case, would still own the rights. It sounds like this is very similar to that setup.
Now, also sounds like I'll go back to the Matrix Online. A lot of players, when they want to do certain things with their characters that they couldn't do, like changing servers, their argument was like, "Hey, this is my character. I spent $15. It's my character." It's like, no, you spent $15 to rent your character.
Right.
Everything that you do was owned by Sony Online or Warner
Yep.
Brothers, Daybreak. So, you're kind of building for them, but it's the experience that you were going for. I assume it's going to be similar with this. With the last point you just brought up, you get what, exclusive access to it. Yeah, it sounds similar.
Yeah. And it's funny that you brought up the Sony, the Matrix Online situation, because with Sony buying it and then pulling the plug, and Warner being the original IP owner, it's almost like it's in limbo now, like, yeah, they still own it, but because I've seen this happen too with I believe it was the Terminator franchise. That period in between Genesis and Dark Fate, when Skydance went under, there was a mobile game, Terminator Genesis, and yeah, it just, at that point it was like, well, we can't do anything because it's not that nobody owns us, but somebody's buying us, and we don't know what they're going to tell us we can and can't do, and then they just pulled the plug on the game. So
yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, it was unfortunate.
Well, good things come to an end.
Okay, we're going to get to that, David. David says, I've read some tweets stating that Lawrence Fishburne and Hugo Weaving will appear in Matrix 4 as flashbacks. What do you guys know about this? So right before we get to that, I'm just going to real quick, because this happened, I think, today, right? The Warner Brothers Spain bot, I call it. Warner Brothers Spain posted a picture of this promotional. It looks to be a stationary kind of mannequin robot statue thing, but I don't know. I mean, it could be interactive. It has a red pill and a blue pill. I reposted it because, like, I know sometimes when I see posts in another language, it'll say, "Oh, see translation," and then you click it and it's still in the other language. So I was like, I just shouted him out, gave him credit, but yeah, I saw it, and it didn't really explain what it does. It just said it was there. So if there's any Spanish speaking yellow pillars out there who don't mind translating, for sure, hop on in the chat and let us know what it says. Again, their Twitter is at Warner Brothers Spain, or Warner Bros Spain. And again, if you guys aren't following me in Vesuvius, make sure you're following us on Instagram and Twitter, so you can catch all this kind of stuff in between the live streams. Like I said, this happened today, but some of the other stuff we talked about in this live stream happened days ago, a week ago. We're doing our best to utilize the different platforms to give you guys the news as quickly as possible. But we can't always run right to YouTube all the time, so that's why it's important. And just in case, you never know what happens with the social media platform. It could be Instagram, it could be YouTube, it could be Twitter. Any one of them could give us a problem on any given day. So that's why it's really good to just follow on whatever platforms you have, just in case we got to put out an emergency statement or anything like that. But yeah, I haven't seen anything that says what it does, if it does anything. What I did say was that I know we're not going to get anything like that here in the States, because I don't know if some of you guys know about this or remember this is from like 5 or 6 years ago. But this is a meme about the situation. It says, nothing makes me laugh as consistently as remembering the story of Hitchbot, the hitchhiking robot that made it all the way across Canada and tried to do the same in the US, but was immediately beaten to death in Philadelphia. Yeah, that's my city. For sure.
He didn't get sent off to Bel Air.
Yeah, no, he didn't make it, man. The droid probably had California dreams, but they will come to a short end in the wrong neighborhood in Philadelphia. Is there anything jump out to you about this promotional robot here?
Well, I mean, the head looks like a bell. Okay, it looks like a female figure with, I don't know, like one of those poofy dresses or something.
Yeah, from like I want to say what that's like the 1800s,
Yeah,
something like
you know,
that,
it,
17,
like
something
Mary
like that.
Poppins is like floating down or
Yeah.
something. Um, I get Rocky Four vibes. You know, Paulie's robot. I get kind
Yes,
of,
yes. Thank you. Yes.
but I mean, it looks like a work of art. Um, you know, looks shiny. No bird shit on it yet. Oop. Oh man, it's hard for me to stop cursing now that I said I was gonna do. We are gonna keep it clean this tonight. Yeah. So
Well, we're past the first 15 minutes. I think it's the first 15 minutes in the live stream where they're like checking, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And YouTube is always changing the rules, so whatever.
looks cool. Hopefully, it's got a cool function. You know, maybe it'll come to life on December 22nd.
Okay, so we've got some comments here. Oh, shout out to Beverly. Hi, Beverly. We see you. Oh, you were in Philly too. Okay, South Philly in the house. Right. And she asked, where is that? Randy says it's a Renaissance period dress. And Stephanie said there's a Reddit post that said it's a common statue of a princess found in Spain with different overlays. So, right. It was posted by Warner Brothers Spain. So I just assumed it was in Spain. I don't know exactly where this picture was taken. But culturally, it sounds like the Reddit post that Stephanie is making reference to. If this is like a thing in Spain, it would make sense that this was taken in Spain. Yeah, so we don't know if the statue talks or does anything. It does not look like it moves. I mean, the platform it's on looks pretty stationary. I mean, it might have wheels, maybe, but I doubt that it's gonna do anything more than like talk to you and ask you if you want the red pill or blue pill. Again, I don't know that it even does that. It could just be a statue. But that picture was posted by Warner Brothers Spain today. So okay,
Maybe you
Eternity
could
is here.
plug
Says
into it.
Delaware in the house, so he's not far from South Philly. What were you saying, V?
Maybe you can plug into the statue and you can have like experience or something like it's an experience machine.
Okay, David knows about the original Spanish statue. He says the Spanish sculpture is called Menina, which is a young woman who used to take care of children in rich families. It's a cultural icon of Spain. There are a lot of paintings about Meninas. So thank you guys for sharing your knowledge with the larger class. This is one thing that I love about the Matrix University community. We are constantly educating each other. And that was one of the, primary objectives, is to not only share the knowledge that, Vesuvius and I have about the Matrix Online, because we know that a lot of people didn't get to experience that, and that a lot of that information is hidden and not easily accessible at all. But on the other hand, we're constantly learning things every, day, and people bringing things to our attention and pointing out things, finding things. And that's the fun of this franchise, is, that connection and that sharing of information. I'm really enjoying, you guys teaching me things as well. So thank you everybody in the chat for being here and spreading this international knowledge. The internet is the great equalizer. So, okay, let's go on to the next thing, because it was already asked here. And that is the whole Lawrence Fishburne will be in the Matrix Resurrections, just not how you think. Excuse me. Now, I believe, right, it says one take news. So earlier in the week, they tweeted that they had an exclusive, and I retweeted it because they said they had an exclusive. It seemed legit. So technically, this is an exclusive, but the yellow pillars here, I mean, this shouldn't be a surprise, because we kind of got this information shortly after, I want to say, the Clayton Watson interview, when we were trying to figure out what his return was. And I believe Viewer Anon confirmed. I could be wrong about that part of it, but somewhere in that area of live streams, we got the skinny on the flashbacks. So I'm going to go ahead and read the article anyway. It says the Matrix Resurrections is without doubt one of the most anticipated action and sci-fi films in years, and it's not hard to see why. With the return of Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, along with Lana Wachowski behind the camera, this is shaping up to be a family reunion. We previously reported that Hugo Weaving would appear in the film via archive footage and in other ways. Well, today we've learned that another iconic character will be in the film, just in a different way. One Take News has learned that Lawrence Fishburne is slated to appear once again as Morpheus. However, this will be a very limited role. We were told he will appear in flashbacks to the Matrix trilogy, just like Smith will. What's more interesting is that we were told a statue of Morpheus molded after Fishburne's liking will be seen in the film as well, although we don't know where. I'm going to stop there. That, to me, is the actual exclusive part, because we've already seen that there's going to be flashback clips. You know, you've got the scene where the film is playing in the background. You know, in the trailer, you've got Trinity running up the wall. And as I just mentioned before, you know, we confirmed, or sort of confirmed, that Clayton Watson is credited because he is going to be featured in a flashback. Now, what I will say, in fact, I got IMDb right here, because Clayton Watson was listed. I don't remember seeing Lawrence Fishburne's name.
Yeah, I don't see it yet.
Yeah, I still don't see it. I see Clayton Watson as kid uncredited, but I still don't see Lawrence Fishburne. So it might be a quick flash, you know, or maybe they have to credit Clayton Watson because maybe in his flashback you can hear his voice and he has some lines. I mean, it says uncredited here, so I don't know. I don't know the skinny or the details on that. I do know I don't see Lawrence Fishburne's name here. But that said, again, the statue of the Lawrence Fishburne Morpheus that we don't have an image of is news. But since we don't have an image of it or a source, you know, there's always that. I'll put that little caveat there, so, or disclaimer rather. Moving on, it says, for those who don't know, well, everybody here should know this, Lawrence Fishburne played Morpheus in the Matrix trilogy. Yeah, just going to keep going. Morpheus was the man who freed Neo from the Matrix and became his mentor, along with being a hero for the citizens of Zion. Morpheus has sparked thousands of philosophical papers about his character and the role he plays. Morpheus has since become an iconic character in cinema, along with Neo, Trinity, and Agent Smith. While Fishburne didn't film any new footage for this film, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II will be playing a different version of the beloved character. And without saying too much, yes, it's a plot point, and we won't spoil it for you. Just know that Fishburne will be back in this movie, which they've already said in a flashback. So, yeah, that's the end of that article. Oh, Eternity is here. Thank you for the super chat. Always appreciated. Are we having another Matrix party? You're in Delaware? Are you coming to Project Matriculated? You got to get a ticket, brother. The space is limited. Don't wait till the last minute, because you know, we can't sell tickets at the door. It's got to be advanced. It's got to be online. So there's a video up. Where is it? There's a video up on the channel, an advertisement, but there should be a link in the description of this live stream. You know, we've been posting on Twitter. So the links to the direct ticket purchase is available to you now. Yeah, the general admission is live, so make sure that you jump in, because it's going to be epic. I'm gonna just leave it at that. But V, is there any other things you wanted to mention about the Lawrence Fishburne statue and or potential flashback cameo?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned a statue. If he's going to be in like a statue portrayal, you know, we saw in the background of when they did the little featurette and they were interviewing all the cast members, and we had Jada Pinkett Smith as Niobe, and in the background we saw like all these instruments, and it looked like they were like all metal. Like it looked like a very metal setting. So I don't know if it's Zion or New Zion, or if the leaks that I read were accurate and it's a different city altogether. But you know, that could be the location for a Morpheus statue, and I wonder exactly how accurate it's going to look to Mr. Fishburne.
Well, they're saying here you're going to be able to tell it's him. Now, I want to rewind there because you mentioned something that I think, again, a lot of times I think when outlets are writing about this, that they don't know what happened in the Matrix Online. And that the Matrix Online was really fond of monuments, but beyond that, I mean, if there was mention of New Zion, but it wasn't called New Zion specifically, they might refer to that as a new city altogether. But in reality, it could be simply New Zion, which I think again is just another point of which shows the potential inspiration that the Matrix Online will have on Resurrections. And even if some of these are misses, it really looks like a bunch of these are going to be hits. Like, there's no way at this point I feel like the Matrix Online didn't have any influence whatsoever. Like, that to me at this point is just crazy talk. Now how detailed it'll be referenced, that is yet to be seen. But like you said, if it's a reference to New Zion, I'm gonna be very happy. Even though how I felt about all that in real time, I was just sitting on the sideline watching y'all duke it out. But yeah, good times.
Yeah, can I talk about New Zion a little bit?
Yeah, go for it.
So New Zion was actually a more fortified city, a different actually version of Zion. So we knew that Zion was very susceptible to attack, and that the machines had their plan of attack down pat. So what the humans did was they found a new city that they could settle in, and it was protected by EMPs in their only entrance. So machines really couldn't um, navigate there, and it was deeper underground, so the machines couldn't dig. Because remember that scene where Locke was asking for an update on the machines, and it's like, oh, it looks like they hit some iron ore, but it should only slow them down
Slow them
for about an
down,
hour
right?
or so.
Yeah.
So, so they were in a more concentrated. New Zion was in a more concentrated area of, iron, like an iron
I was gonna
deposit.
say, and wasn't there like lava not far from there as well?
I don't recall that detail, but there was only one way in or out, and it was covered with EMPs. And the only way to get in there was to do like a dead drop, was to shut down your hovercraft and dead drop. And then, like Niobe did in Revolutions, is like when you get clear of the EMP range, you got to turn your hovercraft back on and like change directions on a dime. And in order to get your hovercraft out, it was a big process of like pulleys and chains to get your hovercraft out. And then once you were clear of the EMPs, was to turn it back on and navigate through the tunnels. So this was actually the thing that when the Cypherite spies found New Zion, that was the straw that broke the architect's back, and he broke the truce.
Yeah, no, you were all like EPN tagged up when all that was going on, right?
Yeah, it was. So the EPN was like the extreme Zion, and the Cypherites were like the extremist machinists. So when the Cypherites informed the architect about this, or the machines, the truce was off. And then Zion was attacked at the tail end of the evacuation, and it was destroyed. And Commander Locke was actually missing in action. And there was now the thing that followed up with Commander Locke was something that the players really had a hand in doing. So I mentioned like the paper pen and paper role play earlier in the stream, but they had something like that called hovercraft battles, where you could, I guess, roll dice, and it was all done with the game engine, but you would be doing it outside the game. And so there was a big hovercraft battle over Commander Locke, and he was actually returned to Zion. Now, if he was killed, that would have been the end. They would have kept to that moving forward. But it turns out the players actually had a real effect on the game, and it wasn't scripted in any other way that could have been spun to be like, oh well, the players just affected it this way. It's like no, the players that participated in that hovercraft battle really had an effect on that particular aspect of the story.
Yeah, I remember the lock thing just because the stakes were so high, but like the pulleys and like how you got into New Zion. This is probably my first time hearing that. But real quick, shout out to Franz and Kavion Davis. We see you out here in the room. Appreciate you guys for stopping by. Make sure you have your wrenches. You guys should both be mods. Lorenzo Dawkins says, I'm late to class, Professor V in full swing. Notifications haven't worked lately yet. YouTube notifications are trash. Like their comment engine, the notification gang, like all that is garbage. So this is why it is so important to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. If you have either one, both, we definitely have been doing a better job at tweeting out right before we go live. Also, I forgot to say it earlier because I'm getting so much better at reminding you guys to follow us on Instagram and Twitter. I forgot to tell everyone to like the stream. So please make sure you give this live session a like so that we can touch and reach as many hardcore Matrix fans as possible. Where were we? So, right, we were talking about a Morpheus statue being potentially in New Zion in the Matrix Resurrections. I like that you brought up the link of the background to Jada Pinkett Smith's interview appearing like it was in a Zion or New Zion potentially. Yeah, somebody asked me today about Toby Onwamir, and it looked like he was one of those Zionites as well, just as a side note. Right, so the next thing on our list of things to talk about, I actually recently did a video here, the Matrix or MXO, the Assassin Explained, Matrix Online, Assassin Finally Explained, exclusive Trinity Resurrection details. So yeah, that video goes in pretty hard. It definitely covers the entire arc of the Assassin. We talked about the Assassin back in the original Matrix 4 podcast. It was me, Vesuvius, and Starshore. And what was interesting is that Starshore brought up the Assassin's memoirs, and he said we were going to come back to it, but I don't think we ever circled back to it. So yeah, so that video is up. It's almost a half hour long. It's a very deep dive, and I wanted to give his whole story because I had his whole story details. But you said there were some things that you wanted to talk about specifically, right, V?
Well, document 7 it bears repeating. I think it's got to be the most solid evidence that the Matrix Online is going to be remaining canon because of that one detail.
I'm gonna pull up document 7 then, because I would agree that it is pretty juicy. Let's see where that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes.
And I got to say, you played it perfect with the video clips from the movies and the trailer on
the still
document
shots,
7.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I actually clipped that. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, I would definitely, even though we're gonna talk about this, I would definitely recommend that if you haven't seen it, to go back and watch that video because, like you said, there's some visual aids to go with this on this particular document, and yeah, this is the document that Vesuvius is referencing. Were you gonna say something else before I read it to everyone?
Yeah, what was I going to say? Okay, so the clips. Yeah, so I actually cut that part out. I got the new screen grab on the iPhone, so I took your video. I started posting it around. I put it on my TikTok.
Nice.
I guess feed. Yeah, I'm trying to build my TikTok now, and put it on. What's his name? There, Reddit, and it's a real juicy bit, and it's very gratifying for me because I value the Matrix Online so much. This is actually how I started my social media presence. Was like, well, I know a whole lot about the Matrix Online, and I want to go back and relive that story and get all the bits that I didn't get the first time around. So that's when the archive, Julio Angel Ortiz's archive, comes into play, and we did the podcast, and we had the announcement for the uh, the, the the sequel, Resurrections. So it's like a snowball effect, and now we're going back to the Assassin's memoirs. I mean, this stuff is written by Paul Chadwick, handpicked to write The Matrix Online by the Wachowskis back in 2000, 2001, 2002, when the sequels are in pre-production and The Matrix Online is it's just brewing in the background. They're working on The Matrix Online and doing conceptual art for characters that they don't even know what they're going to look like in the sequels. So this is how far back this stuff is actually going. And for this detail to emerge, when I saw, I think it was Bayamos or Starshore posted this document 7 in Discord, I mean, I almost fell out of my chair because with how deep I am in this, I overlooked it. So
Well,
for you to put it together and package it so perfectly is really, really gratifying.
well, yeah. Shout out to Bayamos. He brought it up in the Discord, but major shout out to Starshore because he's the one who actually took all the screenshots. Like he screenshotted everyone. You can see his name in the chat there. So props to him for saving this and keeping it as archiving it and keeping it as part of the Matrix universe canon that we can reference. Because, like I said in the video, I mean, I really think that this is proof, as close to hard evidence as you're going to get, that the Matrix Online definitely, at the very least, was a major point of inspiration in terms of plot points in the Matrix Resurrections. What will remain canon, or if they, backtrack or retcon anything, is yet to be seen. But people asked as soon as the Matrix 4 or Matrix Resurrections was announced, Project Ice Cream at that time, right? Oh, how is Trinity back? She died. I mean, this right here, the answer was right in front of our faces the entire time. I mean, and when I say our faces, I mean me and you, because we had access to that stuff. But to your average Matrix fan, I mean, this stuff is so far hidden, buried in a treasure box somewhere with a map that has no names or X on it, and that's the thing. I mean, it's almost bittersweet because there's a part of me that was like, man, the assassin probably should have had like dialogue, and this should have probably been in a cinematic so people could find it. But then the other side is like, well, that's what you're here for. That's what you and V are doing. You're sharing this stuff because if you guys don't share it, people are never going to know what happened. So like that part of the experience and the journey is, really cool. And again, shout out to Bayamos and Starshore because they brought it to our attention earlier, or rather last week. And I was just like, I got to put this out. I got to get this information out there. I don't know. I mean, that video is pretty long. I don't know that I've made a video that long, that fast ever before in this channel, but I was just very excited to share. So I'm going to go ahead and read document 7. Again, I definitely recommend that anybody who hasn't goes back and watches the entire video. I put the cinematic clips in there just to kind of give you context, because I know in the video I uploaded that's like all the cinematics together, it's like an hour long or whatever. I see a lot of comments that people were like, well, this is confusing, like what's going on. But
yes, it is.
Right, because a lot of the information was in the missions and in between each cinematic. So seeing them like that, I could see where things are out of place, or especially towards the end, it gets real choppy and you can't really follow the story. But that's what I loved about that video. I felt like I really took the time to give you all the details of the assassin that mattered, and so that you could have his entire story arc. But let's get to this that document that I believe is in reference to what we might see in the Matrix Resurrections. He says, why was I scheduled for deletion? I think I know. My duties were wide, as I was effective. I organized disposal in the hard world as well as the Matrix. So real quick, before I continue, someone asked me, isn't that what Ramachandra did? So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because I did have an answer that made sense to me, but I was curious to what you thought about that.
Okay, so when we talked about this, I think I might have brought it up in the original Matrix 4 podcast, that back in the day when this was new and this was happening, in the game, there was speculation that Ramachandra is the assassin. His name was just the assassin. There was nothing else. A lot of Matrix characters will have another name that they go by. Neo was Thomas Anderson, but the assassin was just the assassin. So people were trying to fill in that gap and saying, well, maybe this is Ramachandra. So,
which someone
going
brought up
back,
character-wise, just from the story arc, didn't make a whole lot of sense because Ramachandra's talking about love and saving his exile program child out of love, and now he's gonna kill Morpheus. I was just like, that'd be like a weird twist, right?
yeah, but I mean, it is when you listen to the language. Yeah, Ramachandra is an apt suspect because the recycling.
Right.
Ramachandra's position was the systems resource manager for recycling operations. I think I actually might have gotten that right, even though I fumbled through it. Systems resource manager for recycling operations. So it seems to me like he was a little bit higher up, as to where the assassin describes experiences of being a robot in the real world that actually did the recycling. And Ramachandra was maybe like an operating system to that effect.
Which is funny because that's you basically said what I said, just with some slightly different wording. But yeah, I totally agree. I felt like when you look at the wording of Ramachandra's title, if anything, Ramachandra was probably the assassin's superior. And if you read further into the documents, or listen further into that assassin video into the documents, Ramachandra might even been the one who decided that the assassin was up for deletion. But that's a whole nother theory. I want to continue with this document 7, this juicy document 7, because this is the part that is most relevant to Matrix Resurrections.
Hold on.
What's okay? What you got?
Hold on. I don't know if this is a repressed memory or if I'm only thinking of this now, but you say, Ramachandra might have been the one to put the assassin up for deletion. He may have been the one that made the decision not to recycle Trinity and do
right. That I believe that's coming from the same. I believe that's coming from the same room.
All right. Let's move on then.
Absolutely. After the crash, it was I who marshaled the many-leg. After the crash, it was I who marshaled the many-leg tender units to dispose of the punctured corpse of Trinity. Yet it was purloined by others first. Tendrils still protruded from the soft thing. They had sheared them. An odd device was on the body. An odd device was on the body's neck. Obviously, a project was planned. I protested my exclusion. So those two lines are what we were just talking about. He said, obviously, a project was planned. I protested my exclusion. So what V and I just theorized is that Ramachandra may have been the one who came up with this project to preserve Trinity as opposed to recycling her, and that the assassin, who normally is in charge of the actual physical recycling of the human bodies, was left out of the loop. He wasn't told what the project was about, and the assassin was very upset by this.
Yeah, so all of these programs, they have a purpose, and this particular program, the assassin that we call him, took his purpose very seriously. Now, I don't know if it's in the rest of this document or if it's in others, but he talks about adding steps to the recycling process to increase nutrition in order to feed the liquefied corpse to other copper tops in the Matrix. So, I mean, it is actually some pretty darn detailed writing. I mean, bravo, Mr. Chadwick. He put together some very interesting side stories and very, very small details that are now coming to fruition.
Well, Chadwick's Matrix comics are among my favorites. But yeah, that was a later document, him talking about those details of the process and increasing nutritional value, I think by 1.25% or something like that, at 45 steps, or adding 3 or 4 steps to those steps, or something of that nature. He ends this with he says, my protest was deemed offensive, I fear. Deletion loomed, I fled to the Matrix. So basically, the assassin became an exile after Trinity's body was saved, because he protested. Excuse me. And I think he protested more, not so much that it was recycling Trinity, but just, like this document says, he was just left out of the loop. I think he was more offended by the fact that it was a secret project among the machines, and above his pay grade, so to speak, or a need to know basis, and he didn't need to know. Well, that ruffled his feathers. He didn't like it, so he fled to the Matrix, and he also fled to the Matrix to avoid deletion. So it was a good reason to run.
Yeah, so now he's in the debt of the Merovingian. Now he mentions later on that he does not owe the Merovingian, and I think that it's because he fulfilled the bounty on Morpheus's head.
Correct. I was just gonna go there. Yep.
All right, I'll let you finish.
Oh no! You I mean, just in the sense that we're on the same page about it. I mean, like you said, in a later document, he says, "I owe no debt to the Merovingian," but that is because, also in the video when we're going over the entire storyline, when we first find out about the assassin and his killing of Morpheus, all the clues point to the Merovingian being the mastermind behind it. So to me, that line only confirmed that theory that, yes, the Merovingian gave him the order to assassinate Morpheus. And some also speculate that was because Morpheus, the Merovingian was offended by Morpheus barging into Club Hell to demand Neo's release. So this was a revenge move for that, similar to him destroying the Oracle shell, right? At that point in the Matrix Online, we assume that. Go ahead.
Well, the Merovingian said, if you take what's mine, you will pay the price. So then we hear about, a bounty on their heads. I believe from the Oracle, the Mary Alice Oracle, later in the movie when they're looking for Neo. Oh no, it was earlier in the movie. Knowing that there was a bounty on their head, they still went to Club Hell to get Neo. So she had to fight her way through Hell in order to get Neo back, and they were able to do that.
Right, but what I was going to say before was that Morpheus, Trinity, and Seraph are the ones that demanded Neo be released. At the point in which the Merovingian would have employed the assassin to terminate Morpheus, well, Trinity and Neo are already dead, and he don't want that kind of smoke with Seraph. So Morpheus was the only guy he could really kind of get even with on that front. So I've always felt like that was a legitimate theory, that made sense, that the Merovingian was behind it. Real quick here, Lorenzo asks, is that Satie's dad? So just for clarification, for anybody listening and having trouble following this story or our theories about this story, the assassin is not Satie's dad, but the assassin was the machine in the real world that physically recycled the humans, or was at least in charge of the physical recycling of humans. Vesuvius and I agree in believing that Ramachandra, who is Satie's father, was probably the assassin's supervisor or higher on the food chain in the recycling department. So we also then theorized through these documents that Ramachandra could have been the machine that gave the order to preserve Trinity's body in the real world.
Yeah, Neo and Trinity kind of earned Ramachandra's respect there, and probably some loyalty as well. Because when he was talking to Neo in the train station, he said, I can see that you're in love. What would you do to hang on to that connection? So kind of rewarding Neo with the savior of Trinity may have been like an act of loyalty or an act of love from Ramachandra to Neo. I mean, Neo's sacrifice to, I guess, preserve the Matrix instead of destroy the Matrix, which is what he was supposedly prophesized to do. He didn't do that. He found a way to keep all three life forms, the humans, the machines, and the programs, alive, and that was through peace.
Oh man, now we're brainstorming. So, So let's say, for the sake of this conversation, that we're right, that Ramachandra was the supervisor to the assassin who recycled the human bodies in the Matrix. Excuse me. Well, when they died in the Matrix, but he recycled their real world bodies to liquefy them. So, if that's the
Yeah.
case, and Ramachandra was his supervisor, what if, because we're saying that Ramachandra could have come up with the idea to preserve Trinity's body. What if Ramachandra's hardware was the garbage truck?
Yeah, I like that. Uh,
Because then that
yeah.
shows him physically taking Neo's body. Just a theory.
There's no reason to think otherwise. He must have had a presence, a physical presence in the real world. Basically, a robot. He could have been anything. Garbage truck is actually pretty good because of the glow that happened there at the
The
end with
green
the
eyes,
gold.
yeah. We
Yeah, the
know
green.
that Ramachandra's a fan of Neo.
So that bot, the garbage truck, it had red eyes, but then in a later release on the DVD, it had green eyes, which was something that we saw in the Animatrix Matriculated. When a machine chose to join the human force, their eyes turned from red to green. And we saw that with the garbage truck, the machine that took Neo's body away when he had died.
Yeah, and shout out again to Starshore for bringing that to our attention in the original Matrix 4 podcast. So for anybody who's like, what are they talking about with this garbage truck business? In the many in the many machines of the Matrix Explained video here on this channel, it's old video, you have to dig to get it. But it's I explain all the different real world robots that we see there. So I go into more detail there, but as Vesuvius mentioned, basically the scene after Smith is destroyed in the Matrix Revolutions. We're talking about the robot that carries Neo's body away. We call that the garbage truck for lack of a better title because I saw it somewhere online and it's never officially been given a name within the Matrix universe. In terms of the movie or credits or comics or Animatrix, we don't have a name for it officially, so we just kind of call it the garbage truck. But yeah, it's the flatbed that Neo's body was carried off on that we're
Yeah, and I
referencing.
did a little video too, just outlining the similarities between Matriculated, the Animatrix short, and the garbage truck's eyes turning green. Now,
Okay. Well, yeah, you go ahead first because I got it up on the screen.
what's that?
No, you go ahead. Finish your thought.
Okay, so we know that a detail in the Matrix Online, Trinity's body was salvaged, and Neo's body was taken away by a friendly machine, someone that sympathized with with what he did, his sacrifice. So of course now we know just from the trailer that they're put into these special pods. Um, but the detail that there was an odd device on the neck, and we see that, and the way you put that in your video, where it zooms in on that cradle attachment to Trinity's neck was perfect. I mean, this is well thought out. Um, the Matrix trilogy really could have ended with Revolutions, but considering they've got all these details in there, it's man, I'm real glad that we're getting this. I'm really glad.
So Stephanie's comment I got on the screen here, and I think it parlays into the almost inevitable conversation that comes with the discovery of document 7 of the assassin's memoirs. And her question is, yes, I think it's to keep her alive as a sign of respect. But do you think the BIP is canon? That could tie into the additional plug in Trinity. For those of you who don't know, the BIP is an acronym for the Biological Interface Program. Vesuvius and I have talked about that in an earlier live stream. We dedicated a live stream to that. There is an original Matrix 4 podcast where we discussed this a bit. Now, what's interesting to me, just from my own personal Matrix fan journey, is when we had that conversation. I mean, it's almost 2 years ago now. Wow. When we had that conversation in the original Matrix 4 podcast, I was on, I was like, I plead the fifth. I don't know enough about this. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want anything to be used against me in the court system here. Just because at the time during the game, I felt like that storyline wasn't really, flushed out completely. I thought there was a lot of gaps, a lot of unanswered questions. But the more digging that we've been doing recently with the Matrix Online lore, I feel like I have a much better understanding of the biological interface program. And I do believe that that project that he is referencing could be related to, if not the actual biological interface program. So that's what I wanted to ask you, Vesuvius, because I feel like you've always had a better grasp of how the Matrix Online explained this. I've always got the impression from you that the Oracle originally designed both Neo and Trinity. But my question to you is that something that we can explicitly see in something like Document 7, or something that was in a mission, or something that's in an Oracle audio? Or did we just naturally assume that she would have had to have done this at birth, or creating them in a lab in Machine City somewhere? Or is it possible, because when we are introduced to the biological interface program, we're already in the Matrix Online. This is after Revolution. So is it possible that the biological interface program wasn't implemented until this project, this unknown project that the assassin references?
Okay, so there's some question marks. Okay, now let's just go back to the process. Okay, the Matrix Online was originally written by Paul Chadwick. I believe he was on for the first 3 years, and then his contract came to an end. He fulfilled his contract and went off to do something else. And we had Paul Chamberlain, aka Rarebit, pick up the writing.
Ben Chamberlain, yeah.
Yeah, what did I say?
Paul Chamberlain.
I'm crossing my streams.
Crossing wires, yeah.
Ben Chamberlain.
No ghost, yeah.
Yeah, Rarebit. So he became the sole developer and writer and implementer. And I believe Rarebit wrote in the biological interface program.
Okay.
Now he hasn't gone into details with the origin of that. Okay, he also tried to do some. The Matrix is, or humans are a neural network and not a battery, or not so much an efficient energy. But that storyline, and I believe it was closer to chapter 7, maybe 8 or 9, that got shot down. So when people talk about the Wachowskis were not involved, they were involved enough to shoot down something and insist that humans are batteries and energy and not a neural network.
Okay, hold on. What I'm going to say, though, is when it comes to that conversation specifically, while I'll be the first one to say I have not seen anything anywhere, no interviews, no transcripts, no reference of the Wachowskis ever actually saying that the original plan was to have human beings plugged in the Matrix being used for processing power instead of batteries. Now, I know that's a big theory or assumption, but I've never seen anything to support that specifically. However, what I have seen is in the Matrix comic Goliath, he specifically references humans being used for processing power. That's, I believe, a Neil Gaiman story. So that's right, and that was written before the Matrix was released. That first wave of Matrix comics were written, while they were still in production for the original Matrix. So, the Wachowskis had to approve of that.
Yeah, they did. So again, multifaceted. We have a very multifaceted story, and they approved of it back in the Goliath, and
Right. So that's somewhere between 98 and 99.
they declined it around the year 2006, 2007 with the Matrix Online,
So
because the Merovingian was investigating these things. He had a fleet of sentinels in the real world, and they were investigating this, and it came to an end. There was no closure. So I believe it was, and I can't source uh, I can't source it off the top of my head, but about how I know that they did not approve of this. It was probably something to do with Walrus, who was the director, not the director, the producer for the Matrix Online. I believe I got it from him.
n-
So yeah, declined. Their batteries, not processing power.
now, for the sake of the timeline, though, of all that we're talking about right here, again, because that Matrix comic was written before the movie came out, and we don't know when specifically. Neil Gaiman could have created that story prior to the Wachowskis' conversation with the studio. Again, that part we can't prove. That part is urban legend, right? But if it played out that way, they could have had the conversation with the studio, and the studio says, "Hey, man, that brain processing power thing, that's just way too complicated for audiences. We need you to simplify it. Okay, make them batteries." They could have had that conversation after that comic was made, and then the Matrix Online was after the original Matrix. So that might be the reason why it was shot down. Is okay, the studio doesn't want that, and we know they don't want that now. But at the time the comic was written, they didn't have the conversation yet. Again, this is just timeline speculation. I don't have any proof of any of these conversations, but it would fit the timeline if it played out that way.
Yeah, it would, uh, and that's a good point. The movie studio wouldn't have any creative control over a comic book, so that kind of explains the lapse there. And then the Wachowski saying, "Well, let's just keep this streamlined." Later on, with this particular storyline, with the Merovingian investigating the power supply or the processing power, that could have been. There's an explanation for that as well. They just wanting to keep it streamlined. Now, where were we?
I don't know. We've been going down, like we've been tumbling from rabbit hole to rabbit hole. So
Um, let's see. Biological interface,
oh
right?
right, Bip Cannon. Wow, we got so far away from that. Yeah, let's answer Stephanie's question.
Okay. Back to the bit. So we have a different writer that I believe brought in the biological interface program. Now, I've been up and down, inside and out, and all around this storyline. Now, the storyline as well as the trilogy, and it fits. It fits with that behind the scenes footage of Neo asking Lana, you know, how does Trinity know that I'm out of the Matrix before she pulls the plug? At the very end of the Matrix Part 1, she doesn't know that Neo, well, she doesn't see that Neo has been jacked out of the Matrix. Sentinels are inside the Nebuchadnezzar and they're looming. She doesn't know, but she pulls the jack. And Neo asks Lana, how does she know? And I think she said, pardon me, they're deeply connected. They're deeply connected. She just knows. She knows. And then we have Neo or Trinity whispering to Neo. Neo, the Oracle told me I would fall in love with the one. Now get her, and she kisses him, and there's if they're compatible, biologically compatible, and they have that software component. The Neo has the Prime program, Trinity has the biological interface program. It's a program specifically designed for human biology to interact and interface with machines and machine programming. That explains that they're their deep connection. It explains their accelerated, um, I guess, love interest in one another, their compatibility. Uh, at the end of Reloaded, Neo says to Trinity, "Trinity, I know you can hear me." You know, when she's been shot dead by the agent, I know you can hear me. Now, these are things that Star swore. I mean, the man's got a memory like a steel trap. All of this coming from him, and I've been up and down all around, and it just fits. So I'm not saying that it's definitely canon. I actually ranked these in different tiers, and it's a little bit lower than, say, Paul Chadwick's cinematics and missions. Um, it's a little bit lower on my scale, but I believe it's still canon. It explains a hell of a lot. It explains Neo's powers in the real, and I don't know if we're going to see it, but I think it makes real good sense.
Well, I think you actually more answered my question in terms of if the biological interface program was implemented at this stage with after revolutions, or when they were first born or made, right? So for you, for everything you just said, in order for that to work, it'd have to be when they were first born, right? But to answer Stephanie's question for me directly, I don't know if the BIP is going to remain canon. At the same time, that's what I thought was so juicy about document 7, because we see a picture of the neck jack in the Matrix Resurrections trailer, and he specifically mentioned, let's see if I can pull this back up. Right, his wording is, yeah, an odd device was on the body's neck. So we've already seen a picture of an odd device on the body's neck in the Matrix Resurrections. I mean, that's looking like it's pretty good in the favor of remaining canon. Again, we don't know when specifically the biological interface program was implemented. But even if it was implemented at birth, that doesn't mean that this project was unrelated, or it could be unrelated, and this project is a new project that will be explained in the Matrix Resurrections. Either way, to answer your question specifically or more directly, I believe that it's looking like, to me, it's looking like a lot more of the Matrix Online, I believe, is going to remain canon, or a better way to word it is not going to be retconned than a lot of people thought. Now, real quick here before we move on, if I can find it, David asked, guys, will we ever see you and not just listen to you? Do I still have my screen up? Yeah. So that's what Project Matriculated is for. We are having a party, a celebration of the premiere, a cosplay party, but it's not required. Cosplay is encouraged, but not required. It is a Matrix theme party. It will be on the day of the Matrix Resurrections release, assuming that the world doesn't end the day before. But yeah, we've got everything is live. The tickets are live. There's a video on this channel that brings you, there's links in the description there that brings you directly to the Eventbrite site where you can purchase your tickets. If you go to neomatrixology.com, the first link there you can click, it will take you to where you can purchase tickets. So yeah, we're gonna have an epic party event, and if you're trying to meet up and hang out and say hi and get into the Matrix universe spirit, again, we'll be there. Vesuvius and I are both going to be there. Cosplay, again, is encouraged but not required. Also, remember that ghosts, werewolves, and vampires are considered exile programs. So, and it's not limited to, Neo and Trinity and the main characters. I mean, you can go so many different ways with your cosplay. And again, if you just want to be there and cosplay isn't specifically your thing, you can come as you are and just enjoy the show. But it's going to be a good time. I definitely highly recommend that you join us. And that's also, the week of, that's Christmas week, right? That Wednesday is the Wednesday before Christmas. So yeah, we'll have you back home for family holiday events by Christmas Eve for sure.
let me take one more stab at this biological interface program and the implementation. So I'll say I'm going to limit it to version 6 of the Matrix. And I'm going to say that piggybacking off of Neo and his Prime program, we figure the Prime Hebrew. So we'll say Neo or a former version of Neo reinserts the Prime program into the Matrix, and it is thus reloaded. He is then reborn, and I think that the one is preloaded with the Prime program. He's set to live in the Matrix. Morpheus finds him, frees him, and he's manipulated and reloads the Matrix again. Then we have version 6, and the Oracle she's probably getting bored in the first 5 versions of the Matrix and wants something to change. Maybe she's becoming very sympathetic with the humans, and she decides she's going to play a dangerous game. The recipe that's missing is facilitating this relationship, getting Neo to choose one person, Trinity, over the rest of the human race. So she creates the biological interface program. We know that the Oracle was the one that wrote the program. There are other people that, well, programs and one person that tried to create another biological interface program, but it didn't work as well. The Oracle's is the one that was installed in Trinity. So I would at least limit it to version 6 of, the Matrix Part 1, Neo, and Trinity. Now, we don't know how the Oracle installs her programs. We've got cookies, we've got candy. We don't ever actually see Trinity eat a cookie. But that's the assumption I would go with. If she's not preloaded upon birth, then I would go with cookie. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, so we see Morpheus eat a cookie in the Matrix Online. We see Neo eat a cookie in the films. I mean, it's not hard to imagine that Trinity has had her share of Oracle cookies as well. But that's another reason why I was asking about the timeline location of the biological interface program. Because if it was installed at birth prior to her death, then being able to cache her consciousness isn't a reach at all, cookie or no cookie. Real quick here, Gabriel says potentially they had less creative oversight of related media before the first movie came out. Now he says potentially. I'm gonna disagree that that's how it played out. There's a video here. I'm not remembering the title off the top of my head, but in this thumbnail, it's Bill Pope and Kermit at the red table. Right, Bill Pope spills the tea, right? So in that interview, he made it sound like the Wachowskis had more creative control going into and completing the original Matrix, which would include the Matrix comics. And to the point that Vesuvius made earlier, the Matrix comics came out through Burly Man Entertainment. I'm sure that there's some Warner Brothers ownership, but either way, they had more creative freedom with the comics, of course, right? I mean, that's every comic. There's it's easier to do crossovers in comics than films. But to stay on topic here, Bill Pope described some of the things and the flaws that he found working on the sequels were a result of the studio's meddling and the studio having more creative control. In the first one, in the original Matrix, the studio wasn't really paying attention because they didn't know what it was, and they really didn't know how much money it was going to make. Once the money started rolling in, that's when people started trying to pull the strings and get involved and say, oh, you should do this and do that. So my understanding is, if the battery conversation is true, that and the Switch thing were like the only things that the studio meddled with, and that the Wachowskis put their foot down about everything else and got what they wanted in all the other conversations except for those two, is my understanding of how things played out.
Yeah, that's right. And they're both, simplification of a larger concept.
David here asks, is there any other movies as deep as Matrix with so many layers and meanings? Others that make us think hard to understand. Love Matrix. And I think I speak for all of us when I say I love it too. So I think I was having this conversation maybe on the Discord, but yeah, I don't know that there's another franchise. The way I word it is I don't know that there's another franchise as interactive as this one. Take for example this Assassin Document 7 that had to be unearthed from the archives of Zion. Like, you had to dig so deep. You had to dig damn near to the Earth's core to find this thing. I don't know that that's going on in any other franchise in terms of those types of references and connections and hidden details. Now, in fairness, there's so much Star Wars content that I will never be able to catch up. So this kind of thing could be happening in the Star Wars universe. I don't know. There's too much for me to even try at this point. So that said, like I can't say for sure that there's not another franchise that has more layers or connections. I think that might be a debatable thing, depending on your knowledge of said franchise. But like I said, when you're talking about in terms of interactivity and the audience participation, I can say that hands down the Matrix universe is in the lead, and it's not even close.
I could cite Star Wars. They've got series, they've got comics, and let's go back to the sequel trilogy, the prequels that didn't go over so well. Going into those, I've seen Star Wars toys. I wasn't into Star Wars until it got re-released in the theaters and they started talking sequel trilogy. And I think that was about 20 years. So sound familiar? We're having our own resurgence here in the Matrix universe. But yeah, they had comics. They've all been decanonized since the Disney acquisition. But with all the novels and the comics, and they're still drawing inspiration from those, even though they're kind of changing it a little bit. At least that's my understanding. There's some pretty good Star Wars channels out there. I think the Star Wars Theory one is notable because he was recently ridiculed, I guess, by a Disney or a Lucas exec for showing emotion during a very pivotal scene of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I didn't pay any attention to any of that stuff, but how I found Star Wars Theory is his fan film.
Oh, I don't know about the fan film.
Oh, go watch it, dude. Yeah, like I mean, now in fairness, like or what I will say is, for those of you patiently waiting for Beyond the Glitch, I am patiently waiting to share it with you all. The way things kind of played out with this event, we're going to premiere it at Project Matriculated, but then I think what I'm going to try to do is have it set so that at midnight, I don't want to steal any shine from the Matrix Resurrections, right? So I'm thinking at midnight it'll premiere on YouTube, so that would be December 23rd. Technically, I think I'm going to be able to set that. I've never done that before on YouTube, but it looks like it's not that hard. But that said, and I don't know, Star Wars Theory's financial situation at the time that they made that fan film, but it's like, CGI, like it looks like it was a decent budget. Same thing with the King Vader, visual effects. Like I can't compete with that. Like this is my first fan film, so I basically sacrificed my bucket list vacation to Hawaii to do this thing. So to me, it's still a no budget film. But that said, yeah, it was just clean, man. Like I really liked it. And I can't sit here and say I'm like an expert in Star Wars fan films. And now there was like a contest not too long ago, actually. Comical Realms submitted, and he was an honorable mention. Like they showed a clip of his Star Wars CGI fan film when they announced the winners, which I thought was really cool because he's who I go to for 3D. He did the Between Two Batteries here on this channel, and the Keanu Reeves parody. That's his 3D work. But anyway, yeah, there's like been an explosion of Star Wars fan films, so there's way too many to watch now. But at the time, that Star Wars Theory one was like, cutting edge. As far, yeah, like I thought it raised the bar. and that's what I want to do. That's what I'm trying to do. That part of it, I would say it's fair to say that I was mildly inspired. Like the story is nothing like his story. You know what I mean? He's working with main characters. I'm not, but just that energy of raising the bar in fan films. I think that his fan film did that, and I'm hoping that we can follow those footsteps in that regard.
Shout out to Star Wars Theory. Good man.
Yeah. Also, Beverly Hills says, "Will anyone be doing videos of the party?" So, I there should be a video guy there. That detail hasn't been ironed out specifically. Um, the more people who can come, the more bells and whistles we can bring into the space. But yeah, I do have a cameraman potentially lined up for taking video footage of the event. I'm not 100% sure on his availability, but like I said, with it being a Wednesday before Christmas, I know he's on break, so he shouldn't have class or anything like that.
I'll take some screenshots.
Behind on the comments here. Only other franchise that comes close to that I can think of is Paul Blart Mall Cop. Right. Eternity is here, says David. On YouTube, they use their RSIs. We have to go to the party on the 22nd to see them outside the Matrix. I like that answer. And yeah, actually, if I can, right, that's Vesuvius's actual Matrix Online RSI as his icon. I've got my most recent RSI in some of the videos, the party videos, the highlights of the emulator parties. My original Matrix Online RSI, you can also see if you go all the way to my first like 4 or 5 videos. They were from the original Matrix Online. In fact, I originally created this YouTube channel in 2008. That's why it has the Philly Liquid, because our faction was Liquid Hyuzu. And Hyuzu is Japanese for fusion. But right, I created this channel then to just so I had a platform or a vehicle to show the faction members, the videos that I had edited. And that was the only reason why I did it. I didn't, views were not important. I was just showing my faction mates the videos that we were all playing around in. And then 2 years ago, I repurposed it for, Matrix University and what we're doing now. So that part of it has always been like really fun for me. Just that, even though I've only been making consistent content for the last 2 years, technically this YouTube channel was started when the Matrix Online was still live. So OG in the house.
Yeah, you had to be competitive to get like faction members back then because the player base was so small, and you needed a place to like host your videos because everything back then everything was like so primitive. So when YouTube finally came around, it was like, oh yeah, this website will host your videos, and it's like, I don't want to get into video editing. Yeah, I got into that way too late.
Yeah, no, you're right. One of the videos on there is a recruitment video. It's telling you where you could go to join our faction.
Yeah, if you played the Matrix Online and you had someone in your faction that could do a faction recruitment video, like you, you were like a bigwig.
Well, I don't know that I would ever say we were big wigs on Vector because we were machinists, so we were smaller than the big factions just by default of being machines. But we had a good time. There was definitely a run where we had I'd say a very comfortable size, not too many players that you didn't know who people were, but enough to feel safe on Vector, if that makes sense, in terms of open PvP. But yeah, no, I miss those times, man. I miss
Hostile server.
Yeah, no, man, that was hostile server is life, dude. I mean, that's another reason why I probably missed out on Document 7. Like, it was an adventure when the server was, really kicking. I mean, really populated. It was an adventure just trying to stay alive. Like, that was the game. Like, don't die. You know.
Yeah, and back then the assassin had like these NPCs. So as soon as you would spawn and give it like 2 minutes, and these assassin corrupted would just spawn and attack you. And it's like, geez, if you were in a hostile server, you're getting attacked by, Merovingians, Zion players, people exploiting left and right because there was like barely any oversight.
Exploit.
And then then you got the environment attacking you too, and they're seeking you out, and they would follow you everywhere.
Yeah, and I'm a much more mature individual now. One of my favorite pastimes on Vector was hanging out on the bridge over or the overpass next to the Mara Central hardline, because Mara Central was where new red pills spawned. Like the first place that it put you was that hardline. So I'd take the sniper rifle and just take out low levels and spam up my CQ count.
I got a little Mara Central project coming soon.
Lorenzo says, I've been watching some fan films on here. They are ambitious, but limited. King Vader for sure has the best one all around. Yeah, for anybody who hasn't seen it, I believe the King Vader video is in my Fan of Matrix playlist. It's like a playlist of just Matrix fan films. There's a couple collaborations in there. And that's the thing, like those I wouldn't like. The fan films that I have in there now are all parodies. If you haven't seen them, go check it out. But the one that, Beyond the Glitch, the one that we're working on and pretty close to being done with, that's more to the ambitious side. Again, I didn't have the visual effects budget or the the fight choreography budget that King Vader had, but it's a different space. I'll say that. I don't want to spoil it, but it's definitely in its own lane, and I'm very, very proud of that. I'm very happy to have been able to collaborate with you, Vesuvius, and the other graphic artists and the other artists and the actors and the cinematographer and everybody who helped put their creativity in the pot. I wouldn't have been able to do it alone. But just like I sit and watch it and I'm like, wow, like you know what I mean? Like it's not just me putting in on this, and it just feels really, really, really good. So I'm hoping you guys feel that love that we put into these cookies when we bake them.
Awesome. It's good that you're happy with your product. It's a good sign.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but that's the other thing. Like the field testing, the little bit of field testing I've done on this like most recent edit. Like I said, there's still some work to be done, but I've been testing it on people who like aren't Matrix fans. A couple of them seen the Matrix here and there, but they're not hardcores like us. Like it's designed for hardcores like us. And I've been getting feedback from people who don't even know what the hell's going on. So I think that's definitely a positive. But yeah, again, let me see if I can bring it back up on the screen. It's going to premiere for the first time on the big screen at Project Matriculated. Club Vibe Riverdale tickets are on sale now for the cosplay party event. And it's a Matrix themed cosplay party event. But again, you don't have to be in cosplay. You can come as you are. You can come in your favorite cosplay. I mean, we're not going to be strict on any of that kind of stuff on it. There's no dress code. I'll put it that way. You do have to be over 21. But again, there will be a direct link to the ticket sales in this live stream's description. You can go to neomatrixology.com, click the link there. We got it up on Twitter. I'm going to try to remind myself to remind you guys over these next 6-7 weeks that it is a thing. It is a real thing. Vesuvius and I will both be there. And we are really looking forward to hanging out with some other Matrix fans in what is turning out to be a very exciting time.
Can we play the commercial now?
Sure. That's actually a good idea. I didn't think of that. This is why I have you as the professor on deck here. How do I stop this though? Okay. Boom. So yeah, this video is up on the channel because I had to host it in order to link it here, but this would be the advertisement for the event. It might come in kind of loud. Let's see if I can fix that.
Greetings, exiles, humans, and programs. I am Agent Gold. Are you a fan of the Matrix? If the answer to that question is yes, then this broadcast is your formal invitation to Project Matriculated. On December 22nd, 2021, join us for an immersive cosplay party and exclusive private screening of the Neo-Matrixology fan film Beyond the Glitch at Club Vibe in Riverdale, New Jersey. Tickets are on sale now at eventbrite.com. Be sure to purchase your ticket to this premiere party event today so you do not miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime anomaly. Cosplay is encouraged but not required. And remember, ghosts, werewolves, and vampires are considered exile programs.
So that is the commercial or advertisement that's on the channel for the event. Shout out to Agent Gold. He's a really cool actor from he's actually from down under. He's out there in Australia somewhere.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, because well, my bad. I think he's originally from Australia, but he right now he's in South Africa. But I just thought the Australian connection was cool because Hugo Weaving and like.
Yes. Yeah, no, he had good that monotone agent voice and delivery.
Yeah, no, that's why I told him like it's a cosplay event, so you can definitely pull out your inner Smith. Like nobody's gonna hate on you for that for this. In fact, I encourage it.
No, it looks good. Looks really good.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a good time. I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed. We've got the code streams running down the wall, and it's funny because when we first came up with the idea to do something at Vibe, I posted a video of the space, and like I think it was like that same week or 2 weeks later, they had the rap party for San Francisco. And they had like a very similar thing. Now they had like projections, like because there's like I think it's like a 50-foot video wall at Vibe. So at the San Francisco rap party, they had code like they had like projectors and like at like weird angles, so it was like on different parts of the wall. At Vibe, it's like a big video wall, and then they got a side video wall. But yeah, I think the code streaming coming down the wall is pretty cool. And then of course we'll be able to project it on the wall, so you'll have a very it's going to be like this hybrid lounge movie theater kind of experience, which like you said, it's an anomaly. It's a very unique event. It's something that you're not going to get really anywhere else, so I'm really looking forward to hanging out with some of you guys.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be a good time.
Now, hold on here. Did I miss any questions in the comments? Oh, right. He asked, Gabriel asked, was there PvP? So explain how PvP worked on recursion and syntax.
Okay, so you had to manually enter into player versus player. So there was a command, it was just /PvP into the chat box, and that would flag you as hostile. So you could be attacked by other players. So if Lazarus was on recursion and he was flagged for PvP, his name tag would appear red to me. And then I could be non-hostile, target him, and get the first attack off. And then it would be up to the system to determine whether I landed those first hits or not. I could attack him even though I was non-hostile. Once that first attack went off, I became hostile and could be attacked by the other Hayuzen.
Now, those servers, the servers V was referencing syntax and recursion, they were different in that, like you said, you had to, either attack or flag yourself for PvP or be in a event PvP area. Whereas on the server I was on, there was only one Vector hostile. So the hostile server, I can't remember what level you became eligible for PvP. I think it was level 16. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
But yeah, once you hit 16 and the max level was level 50. So anywhere between level 16 and 50, it was on. You could be attacked anytime, anywhere. Now, when you were running missions, it wouldn't let people not in your mission in that building. But outside of that, I mean, you were fair game. Yeah, I mean, like I said, staying alive was a lot of the fun for me. Now he also asked were there clan wars, or I don't know if he's referring to the game Clan Wars, but in terms of like the factions fighting amongst themselves, like I said, I was in a machine faction, so even at our peak, we couldn't really rumble with like the super big Zion factions, and because of that, like I'd say population wise on Vector, Zion was the most populated at all times. Most people were Zion. Second was Merovingian, and then third was the Machinist. So in the Machine faction, you were in a minority. So there was kind of like a unspoken, between the Machines and the Merovingians, because we were outnumbered by Zion. We didn't necessarily gang up on Zion, but we didn't really engage each other very often. It could happen, but it was more a one-on-one thing. It wasn't so much, Merovingian factions versus a Machinist faction, not a whole lot. But Merovingian factions versus Zion factions and Machinist factions versus Zion factions, that happened fairly often. And again, the largest factions were always Zion factions on Vector, but we held our own.
So when the game was originally introduced, there was faction wars where if you were in a certain faction and the leader I guess flagged up hostile and attacked another faction leader or something to that effect, then everyone in that faction became hostile. But it didn't work. So it was something very, very early on. I don't think it made it into the live game. It got scrapped in beta. However, you could join a mission team of top out at 6 players, and you would still have to flag up individually, but the kill point, what they call the CQ point, would go. It would go random or alphabetical. Like you could choose who got the CQ point, whether you got the final hit, the most damage on another player, and then it would. So you could choose which setting for who got awarded the CQ point.
This comment here says, looked it up. There are no parties, cosplay events in Germany for the Matrix Resurrections premiere, at least nothing on the internet. I mean, I'm looking at this even locally. I haven't seen anybody, at least not promoting it. I mean, I'm sure that there's going to be someone somewhere, like probably more like San Francisco, the West Coast side, but I haven't seen anything locally that's doing what we're doing. So it should be a good turnout. That's like I said, guys, if you are planning on coming, don't wait, man. Get your tickets because space is limited. We still are in different times, so to speak. So I want to make sure you guys get first dibs for sure, because I'd love to party and hang out with you guys on such a special and joyous occasion. Lorenzo says, wow, 6 to 7 weeks from this movie. I remember when I didn't even believe it was a real thing until earlier this year. Oh, and that was another thing that you mentioned, Vesuvius, because I guess you're talking about this. Do machines use crypto? I don't even know. Is that supposed to be Cryptos? Cryptos was the Cypherite leader. Right, that's what I was going to say. You mentioned the Cypherites being a subfaction of the machines. The Merovingian didn't have a subfaction, which I always thought was interesting because, the Cypherites were supposed to be like extreme machinists and EPN was supposed to be extreme Zionist. But in the actual game, at least on Vector, and not to disparage anybody who was a Cypherite, but we didn't really rock with the Cypherites like that. Like, we were like, all right, you guys stay over there, we stay over here. And we couldn't attack each other because we were all machines. So in that regard, they were friendlies in the sense that we couldn't fire upon each other or kick each other on a PvP server. But in terms of like running around and politics and running missions and stuff like that and like events, like, yeah, it was very, very separate. Because it seemed like such a separate ideology, at least from what our faction was going with. So
Yeah, it was, and it wasn't revealed until pretty late in the game what the Cypher rights were all about, and they were actually kind of subverting what the machinists were doing. So the ideology didn't particularly line up, and if they were a different faction or organization altogether, it could have worked just as well, but you could have had that PvP component to it.
yeah, and I, like I told you when we first met, like what I do regret from the Vector experience is while you had the PvP, what we didn't have on our server was a large roleplay community. It was very, very small roleplay community on the hostile server. It was pretty much like ridiculed or looked down upon the roleplay on the hostile server. I didn't care. I was like, I'm here. I'm gonna do my Matrix thing. We got a roleplay machine faction. Rock with us or don't. But so what I did to kind of supplement that was, I did more of my role play on the forums. And when I realized that the forums were scrubbed from the internet, I mean, you can try to navigate with the Wayback Machine, but and thanks to you bringing that up, I was able to find some of my posts that I was looking for, so that was cool. But yeah, when I found out that the official Sony forums were removed from the internet, that was another really inspiring moment for this channel, because it was like, man, we gotta put this stuff out there. And this was like right before they announced the Matrix 4, so I didn't even know that was going to be a thing. But when it happened, it was like, man, okay, now we really got to do this. Yeah. So how far out are we on your audio fan project?
Yeah, the fan fiction audiobook. Very soon. I found something that I wasn't happy with, and I want to do a little re-recording. But overall, okay. So for the listeners, I wrote a story way back when the Matrix Online was still a thing. Yeah, everybody was posting stories and doing drawings and doing digital artwork, and it was such a creative community. So I wrote a story about a little kid who wanted to be friends with the potentials that the Oracle babysat for. And I came back to the story about a year ago, and I was like, I kind of like this. So I was like, I should do like an audiobook, because I took the whole Matrix Online storyline and I put it to like a robot voice. And I didn't want to do that for this. I wanted to do something cool. So I figured, since I like the Matrix so much, maybe my kids will like it. It's not particularly appropriate for them yet. So this is kind of like a lead-in. So it's kind of like a kid's story. And it's called The Kid Next Door. And my daughter narrated it. She actually took a voiceover class online. So this is kind of like this will be her debut. And it's a nice little story. And I think the runtime is going to be about 7 minutes. I'll have it up, have it for sale very soon. It'll be awfully cheap, probably under the market value for an audiobook. But it'll be worth it. It's going to be very good quality and a very good story.
And you have a teaser up, right?
I do. Yeah, I got a little teaser up on my Instagram. And yeah, the Instagram, I think it's on the Reels as well. Instagram Reels. So yeah, you can check that out. Fun little cute story.
Yeah. So like I said, make sure you're following us on Instagram and Twitter so you don't miss out on these little updates and snippets and teasers. Please make sure you guys like the stream. We've hit the 2-hour mark, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this session of class. But I always thank you guys for participating and making Matrix University a real thing in both the digital world, the YouTube Matrix, and the real world. I really appreciate you guys, the connections, the information. You guys sending me stuff on Twitter and Instagram. A lot of stuff that I've been reporting on is coming from you guys. So it's always appreciated. Again, if you guys want to hang out with the real Vesuvius and not just see the RSI on the screen, we will be at Project Matriculated the day that Resurrections is coming out, Club Vibe, New Jersey. Link in the description here in this video. It's up on, in fact, it's pinned on my Twitter page. You know, the links to get your ticket today. So like I said, space is limited. You guys know the situation in the world. So we're not going to be able to go full capacity of the building, but you know, we got room to play with. So like I said, don't wait, don't miss out. And class is dismissed.